I don't think I've ever seen a party's election campaign self-destruct as fast and completely as Anthony Albanese's. I even feel sorry for the Labor leader. If it wasn't for this fact, Albanese is campaigning to be your Prime Minister, and there is no excuse for him being so unprepared for such a serious job. Let's have a look at how his campaign has gone so far. Day one, Monday, Albanese couldn't tell us the most basic economic facts, including even the most important of all. What is our unemployment rate?
Sorry, I'm not sure what it is.
Day two of the campaign, Tuesday, Albanese was under huge pressure from journalists who were rightly amazed that he didn't know such basic stuff when he was wanting to run the country. And in desperation, he made this claim to try to make them think he wasn't a complete idiot on economics.
I have an economics degree from Sydney University. I studied both orthodox economics and political economy. I spent 4 years there doing it, and then I became an economic policy advisor to the Hawke government.
Well, day three, today, it just got worse for him. Turns out Albanese never was an economics advisor to the Hawke government. He was a research officer. And for one of its most left-wing ministers, Tom Uren, a junior minister, wasn't in charge of any economic portfolio. Try local government. In fact, Tom Uren, with Albanese's help, didn't develop the Hawke government's economic reforms at all. These guys fought them. They thought those reforms were sellouts. So today that meant yet another day of tough questions for Albanese from the media.
Do you think that your role as a research officer for Tom Uren really constitutes an economic advisor to the Hawke government? And how do you reconcile your opposition to major economic reforms at the time with your attempts to align yourself with them now?
I was employed as an economic policy advisor to a minister in the Hawke government. That's not a surprise, that's just a fact.
But a joke. Albanese's team is now so shell-shocked, and he too, that they've decided to protect him by making his press conferences as short as possible to avoid more bungles. Today's lasted just 6 minutes. 6. But then, to shut it down so quickly, well, it just made Albanese seem like he was running away.
Thanks very much. Thank you. Take all the questions, Mr. Albanese. Why don't you take all the questions?
Look, it's just terrible. But in the end, what did Labor expect? Anthony Albanese, look, I say it again, nice bloke, but he's actually been caught out being a fake, a man who's pretended to be something he's not, pretending to have experience he does not have, and beliefs he used to fight. And now voters will be wondering, well, hello, what does this bloke really stand for? Who is he really? I mean, here is someone who's been part of Labor's hard left for decades, used to fight the Liberal spending cuts and some of its tax cuts, and now is telling us he's actually an economic conservative?
Labor will get spending under control so we can keep taxes low. And I'll work with business.
And the reason this has now exploded in Labor's face is that Albanese is, and this is no surprise, struggling now to sell himself as genuine. In fact, struggling to sell himself as at all. Former Prime Minister John Howard, he was right last night. He was right when he told Paul Murray on his show, how can Albanese be leaving it until now to tell us what he really believes in?
I don't think he's got the policy profile. I can't think of anything that he's policy-wise fought for. You've got to do that. And people often ask me in the years I've been out of politics, what a leadership quality, what do you think's important? I think the most important thing any political leader must do is to stand for things, to argue things, to fight for things. And unless you do that, both against your opponents and within your own party, I don't think people take you seriously.
But what does Anthony Albanese believe in? I'm not so sure he's been serious enough about anything. His views have changed so much and so fast, as Daily Telegraph journalist John Rolfe showed in a fascinating interview with Albanese that ran in News Limited papers today. For instance, just 3 years ago, Albanese...
But we also need to acknowledge that China has been a nation in which we have a friendly relationship
Now, 3 years ago, Albanese declared we also need to acknowledge China's been a nation in which we have friendly relationships, and now, though, he belatedly admits that China is a threat to our security. How does that work? Another example. 7 years ago, Albanese was still fighting the Liberals' boat turnbacks, even after they'd worked, stopped the boats, stopped the drownings. But for Albanese, look, he was just too soft of heart.
I couldn't ask someone else to do something that I couldn't see myself doing. And if people were in a boat, including families and children, I myself couldn't turn that around.
But now Albanese backs the turnbacks that he fought. He says, that's an example I've changed my view on. Boat turnbacks worked. Well, they worked even when he supported them, so when he opposed them. So how does this work? I don't get it. And unfortunately, Albanese's had to change his mind an awful lot, which to me suggests that he's got a history of often being wrong the first time. In 1996, he boasted he was a democratic socialist. Now he says he's of the centre-left with mainstream views. And 4 years ago, Albanese rubbished new coal mines, saying, well, there's not a market for it. And even last year, just last year to the ABC, he claimed there was no demand for new coal. But how wrong can a man be? The markets today tell us there sure is a market for coal. Old coal, new coal, any old coal, because coal prices have tripled since Albanese claimed last year there wasn't a market for them. And now he won't say whether it's against new mines to feed this massive demand. Turns out, of course, that the price of our second biggest export is just one more important economic fact that Albanese does not know. But in so many policies now, Albanese has changed. For instance, he doesn't back anymore a special minimum tax on the rich. He's dropped that, along with so many other policies that Labor took to the last election, saying we must have them. So who is Albanese? Are his critics actually right to call him each-way Albo? Oh, maybe he's just confused, struggling still to adjust to this new Albo. And so I predict the Labor campaign is heading for a world of pain.